Hey everyone! Is this the legendary group that turned Telus into a multi-billion-dollar growth engine? Can I get a round of applause for all of you? You're heroes! So Will, a Brit TikTok star and a Muslim sales LinkedIn influencer walk into a Canadian SKO. This sounds like the start of a really bad joke.
A really bad one. Yeah, not as much of a joke though, so I hear as some parts of the Telus comp plan, moving targets. Yeah, I hear you need a PhD in calculus just to try and figure out how much you get paid every month.
Nothing like trying to hit a moving target, bro! Sales, telecom, big year, right?
Bilal, when is it not a big year in sales? Can you imagine if we came up here and said what it's going to take to work in sales in 2023 and said, not a whole lot, 50% effort, 5 out of 10 on the effort scale.
I mean, your quotas come pre-crushed, folks. All you got to do is smile and wave this year, right?
That would fly at the Rogers kickoff, but this is Telus, come on.
Hey man, you're assuming too much. The tech wouldn't even be working. They totally have an outage.
Oh,
the lights would be
two-day
off
outage
right now.
on the... Got to poke fun at that. That's enough competitor bashing. It's not good form in sales. You shouldn't do that. Except for Bell, they suck.
We all know that it's not easy to work in sales and there isn't really a good perception about us and the profession in general. Will, I understand you tested this hypothesis, is that right?
That is correct. Although I may not sound it, I've been living in Canada for the past 5 years. First 3 of those years were spent on PEI, Prince Edward Island. Anyone in PEI up in here? Make some noise? Yeah, that's what I expected, to be honest.
That's brutal, man. Look, I'm not Canadian and even I know that territory sucks. That's rough.
I don't think I could have asked for a smaller number of people in this room to make some noise. But for the past 2 years, I've been living in Halifax, Nova Scotia. This time, can I get the whole of the Maritimes, East Coast? Let them know who we are. Right. That's it. There's the table there, my friends.
A little better.
That's a little bit better. That's right. But yeah, like you said, I don't think people who don't sell or have never sold, people who've sold and never really made it this far to be sat in this room, really know what it takes to work in sales, everything that goes into it. So I decided to hit the streets of Halifax and test this hypothesis. Ask some Canadian residents what they think of salespeople. So we've got a little clip. I'm going to roll that now.
I think my mic's working. I'm out here in slightly warmer, but not that much warmer Halifax. I'm going to go ask some more people what they think of salespeople. Can you describe what you would think of a stereotypical salesperson?
Somebody who's very interested in having you buy what they're selling and is more interested in selling it to you as opposed to does the customer want it.
They talk too much and they don't stop. You go in to ask questions and they talk all around it instead of actually to the point and helping you get out as fast as you want to get it.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
I do find.
Kick me out the mall for filming, so I have to be outside. When I say salespeople, what's the first thing that you think of?
They can be aggressive.
Okay.
Sometimes they can totally ignore a person too, judging a book by its cover more or less.
So people being pushy, pushing things on you, lying about things, false advertising, I guess.
Try and make like a too pushy, like a too hard push, and that makes people feel like this person really wants something from me. Take money from my pockets? Yeah. Only I was like, no.
Insisting on something that the customer doesn't like. Just being very, very insistent and pushy.
Give me a little bit more on that. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so if there is a product you recommend the customer doesn't want it, you can move on, try to find the right product to that customer. Don't be pushy and insistent on something that they don't want. That just makes people don't like you.
Just in it for the money.
Okay.
And untrustworthy. And perhaps working on a scam nowadays.
People who go around and ask others around the street.
What I'm doing now.
or they'll go knocking on the doors or something. If it's very forced, for example, it's not natural. If you're talking to the clients naturally, it seems more realistic to us and we'd want it more.
Ouch.
Yeah. My feelings still hurt. And my ears, because once I got kicked out of the mall, it was minus 7 degrees out in Halifax that day. Bilal, don't you live in Atlanta, Georgia?
Yeah.
The south of the US?
Yes.
I bet it was a toasty 15 degrees down there that day. Why didn't you not do that part?
Oh, easily, man. Come on, if something happened to me, you know what my medical bill would be? I got 3 kids to feed, man. I can't afford that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess it was quite relieving knowing that if I did get in an altercation, had to go to hospital, I'd only have to pay for parking.
That's right.
We took just some of those adjectives that they used to describe us, pushy, liars, manipulative, and we put those into one of those AI image generators. It's the buzzword these days, isn't it? AI's everywhere. So we stuck it in there to give us more of a visual representation of what a modern, stereotypical salesperson looks like. This is what it spat out. Woof. The wolf of Bay Street. Yeah, this ain't nice, is it? It's not a good feeling.
It's a classic sales bro image, right? Hungry, money-driven, self-centered. And we all know being an elite seller, that's not what it's about at all.
It's funny because I find working in sales for years, every top performer I've met has been the complete polar opposite of what you would describe as a stereotypical salesperson. They're the opposite of this. They flip this image on its head. They turn all the stereotypes around.
Right.
So the most common thing I believe we heard from
Pushy,
the people,
right? Pushy. Pushy came up pretty much the entire time. Elite sellers are not actually pushy at all. They're not interested in trying to persuade or argue with buyers. Actually, the complete opposite. Elite sellers are actually looking for three things: problems, impact in addressing those problems, and a willingness to change. When one of those three things are not missing, there's no deal to be had. And that's what elite sellers are looking for. It's not about persuading and arguing.
Good sellers, they're willing to walk away. They don't need the sale. I mean, the worst thing to hear in sales is a maybe, I'll think about it, being strung along for weeks.
Elite sellers, in order to build trust and not be pushy, always give their customers an out.
I'll give you an example of how this played out recently in my sales career. I was talking to a SVP of sales at a tech company based in the US, and he came into my pipeline and he clicked on like a Facebook ad or something like that. And I said, what made you want to talk to me? He said, well, I'm always looking for ways to do things better. That's lingo for not a serious buyer. I didn't want to make any assumptions though, you've got to stay curious. I asked him some more questions about the way his team was doing things already that day, the processes they had in place. And I confirmed my suspicions that it didn't really seem like he needed what we were selling. So I told him that.
Yeah.
I said, hey, look, although it seems as though this might be nice for you to have, it doesn't really seem like if you didn't buy this or anything like this, you'd be in any trouble. He stopped and he said, Will, thank you, because you just did what I've been trying to get my own sales team to do for months. Not let people into your pipeline who aren't ever going to buy in their best interest as well. It's not about being greedy and selfish and saying, I don't want to waste my time with them. It's about them. It's not a good use of their time to consider something they're never going to need. He corrected me. He said, Will, although you said that, and I understand why you said that, I actually do feel as though I need your product. And these are the reasons why. He basically gave me a roadmap on exactly what I needed to do to close the deal, and I eventually did.
Brilliant.
And that was because we built trust, because he knew I wasn't going to try and sell him something that they didn't need.
Yep. And we know that elite sellers, they're not trying to be pushy at all. In fact, it took me years to unlearn happy ears. And I'm sure the new sellers in the room have experienced this before. When you're on a sales call and you think everything is going right because you're not asking the hard questions, you're not really trying to dig deep. And what I learned is elite sellers actually defend the status quo of their buyers. And they make their buyers build a business case as to why change and why now. And I've had a deal before where I heard the why change, but not the why now. And I pushed them off. I told them, this doesn't make sense right now. It doesn't seem like it's a priority. It's probably not a good use of our mutual time. Come back to me in 6 to 12 months when you feel like this is more appropriate. 2.5 months later, they came back. The deal closed within a week. That's how it's got to be sometimes. Sometimes you need to defend the status quo and put the emphasis on your buyer to build the business case.
There are going to be better people to talk to. And it's in their best interest not to spend time considering your solution if it's not going to be able to help them. It's in their best interest. It's focusing on the customer while also protecting your time so you can go talk to the correct people. And that's the opposite of being pushy and forcing someone something they don't need.
Right.
Pulling back. It's a little bit of reverse psychology in there as well, though.
What was the next one there? I think a lot of people were talking about talking over, not actively listening to the customer, not paying attention to what they're saying, but just getting ready to do the next point. You know, elite sellers understand the value of asking good questions. There's a quote by the famous Muslim scholar Muhammad Jalaluddin Rumi, or as he's known in the West, Rumi, that really changed how I sell. The quote is, trade your cleverness for curiosity. I'll say that again. Trade your cleverness for curiosity. Elite sellers are not trying to be clever. They feel no burden in trying to impress their buyers. They're confident in what they know and what they do. And they bring that to the conversation by asking great questions and making the buyer have to reflect and think about the situation.
Have you ever spent time talking to someone who's trying to sound smart? It's painful. No one likes talking to that person. Someone who's trying to be smarter than them. But you know what they do like doing? Talking about themselves. Someone showing genuine interest in them and listening to what they have to say. I have another story selling to probably the biggest company I'll ever sell to. Fortune 100 oil utility gas company based in the US. But I was chatting to them and it was a competitive deal cycle. After 6 weeks of demonstrations, presentations, meeting various stakeholders in their company, they said, we've decided to go with your solution. Because what we mentioned before, staying curious, I asked, what helped you make that decision? They said, well, your product and your competitors are almost the exact same thing. They've got actually a bit more functionality, but it's not stuff we really need. Your price point's the same. However, during our conversations with you, we felt that your call structure, the organization that you've had, what you bring to the call, the agendas that you set, and the way that you let us add to those agendas so we don't feel like we're being drugged through your sales process, kicking and screaming, and also the way you've listened and summarized and let us know that you've heard what we've said.
Brilliant.
If that's any indication of how your business works, our business is better spent with you versus anyone else.
I used to sell marketing tech, and we get a lot of different buyers coming in for that sort of stuff. Sophisticated demand gen wizards that want to know about APIs and workflows, to junior marketers that just wanted to get as many cheap leads as they could for their sales team, regardless of quality. Without curiosity and genuine interest, I would have sold to those two types of buyers the same way, and I did for a bit, until I started realizing I need to test the sophistication of my buyer. The sophistication of my buyer dictates the type of deal I'm going to get. That junior marketer wants the cheapest thing possible to make it as easy as they can to go ask their boss for budget. That demand gen wizard, they're willing to invest in tech. And that was the difference between me missing quota and making quotas, understanding that and using curiosity.
Lying is the next one that I thought was going to be the most common, the lying stereotype about salespeople deceiving and...
We don't trust anything that claims that it's flawless.
No.
Perfection isn't real. As soon as I hear perfection, I'm like, come on.
The only thing that's really essential to everybody in life is water, food, and warmth. Everything else is different. And if something claims to be a fit for everyone, how can it be a really good fit for anyone? That makes my BS meter go off when I hear that. When I go, I'm sure everyone in this room does some online shopping every now and again. When you go on the website and it's 5 out of 5 stars. No. It's the marketing team bumping up the reviews to make it look perfect.
Absolutely.
No one wants that.
No.
I'm looking for a 4.6 out of 5.
That's right.
Because then I know that some people didn't like it.
Yep.
But what makes one person not like it makes it a great fit for someone else. And withholding that is only going to drag out the length until you actually eventually reveal and they find out they're not a fit. Again, we're wasting time talking to the wrong people. I was recently in the market for an office chair. And although you might not be able to tell from down there, I'm a big guy. I make you look small and he's 6 foot, right? But I'm a big guy, so I went to Staples, went into the back where they keep all the office chairs and I sat in every single one. All of them were way too small. Every chair I've ever owned is just sunk down. It doesn't work out for me. So I went online, did some online shopping, and I came across a chair that I liked the look of. And of course I went to the reviews and I sorted by the worst review first. I wanted to know why might I not want to buy this chair? One of the reviews said, this chair is bigger than any human would ever require. It's huge, gigantic. Even when I put it on the lowest setting, my feet are still dangling off the ground. And I was like, that's my chair. That one right there is Will's chair. So I went ahead and bought it. But what one person doesn't like is exactly what made it a really good fit for me.
Yeah.
Got to leave with those things sometimes.
No, it makes complete sense. And I think, again, something that I learned the hard way over doing sales for several years now is that the reality is there's no such thing as a professional buyer. Our buyers do not get training or take courses or get education on how to buy. They're completely winging it. So they don't know. But are there things as professional sellers?
I hope so.
Supposed to be, right? Now, as we all know, there's a lot of sellers out there that are winging it, but not in this room, not amongst this group. It's upon us to bring the quality to the conversation. And how do you do that? It's by sounding informed. You will never lower your status as a seller with a buyer by being informed. Never. There's no way you can do so. And what are the things you can be informed about? Pricing, product flaws, implementation, competitors. These are the sort of things that the buyer expects us to withhold, but by being informed and by bringing that information up front, we elevate the conversation, and that's how we get to going from being considered liars to being trusted advisors with our buyers.
I've made the mistake of lying to customers before as well. Back in my early days, I was desperate, trying to cash a paycheck quickly. And there was something that I knew would make this customer not want to buy from us. They never asked about it, but I decided not to mention it. My conscience was guilty. I closed the sale. Woohoo, right? No. A couple of months later, they found out about the thing that I hadn't told them about, and they canceled. That hurt me in a few ways. Number one, my conscience was guilty for months.
Right.
Didn't help my conversations or my confidence, kept me awake at night, wondering when this was going to go wrong, and when it eventually did, it hurt my credibility in my organization. My customer success team didn't believe in the deals I was closing anymore. I hurt my bank account. We had a clawback period of 3 months. They canceled after 2, so I had to pay it all back. I'd already spent it on a new chair. That just didn't work for me, so I made a promise to myself that I would lead with those reasons, because if I had saved myself some time and mentioned those things up front when I knew it was going to be an issue, they would have been happier, I would have saved myself some time, I wouldn't have closed that deal, and I would have stayed great at that company. Eventually it didn't work out because of some of those reasons.
Now, the next one was judgmental, right?
We heard that once.
A little bit about it.
Yeah. So there was a woman out there who said some salespeople can be judgmental. They can judge a book by its cover, and she didn't want to have this part on camera. But she shared stories of me as a woman of color in a buying environment, mostly B2C, going into car retailers, going into retail shops, and being looked at suspiciously, sometimes being completely ignored because people are assuming that she wasn't a real customer because of their prejudice.
And this point really hits home for me. I feel it deeply. I recall as a VP of sale being in a sales meeting, and our president was there, and he did a passive-aggressive comment right in the meeting. He said, if only you worked on getting pipeline as hard as you work on getting people to pronounce your name correctly. I was like, what a thing to say. I was at a conference once with a colleague, and he's talking to a gentleman, and I come walking over, approaching them, stick out my hand, do a nice warm handshake, and immediately I felt something was a little bit off. The man didn't extend his hand back. And he just sort of turned his body to the side a little bit, and at that moment I knew something was going to go down. My colleague still wasn't really aware what was happening in this situation. And he just looked at me and he said, what's that name from? So I retract my hand, now realizing what's about to happen. And I look at him with a smile on my face, but with complete confidence, and I say, Africa. He turns around and walks away. My colleague's jaw drops. He can't believe it. But again, I knew something like this was going to happen. This kind of behavior is completely unacceptable, right? And not part of our noble profession as elite practitioners of sales. We don't do this sort of judgment and discrimination.
No. So sorry to hear that story happened to you, mate. Bilal. Got that right?
Perfect.
That's good, because I'm on stage. I'm the one person who's meant to get that right. Bilal.
Yep.
I mean, in this room, I'd like to think that stories like that aren't happening at an event like this or anywhere. Like we said, we heard great things about Telus' conclusion.
Yep.
However, judgment can take forms in other ways. Sometimes it's being too self-centered and judging people too quickly. I used to work on sales teams where sellers wouldn't sell to any customer who was slightly outside of our ideal customer profile. They came from a different industry, let's say landscaping, they wouldn't sell to them. They wouldn't even bother talking to them. They wouldn't take them seriously. In this economy, we need to be talking to everyone. And although I mentioned earlier trying to lose sales quickly, we need to do that when it's in the client's best interest, not ours. Not because of preconceived judgments. We need to stay curious, ask questions, and only when we find out that we're unable to help that customer is then when we say, hey, look, I'm not sure this is best for you.
Now, there was one more that kind of came up in there about being greedy, right?
Greedy.
Yeah. Money hungry.
This one's slightly true. I mean, come on, like, we wouldn't do this if it didn't pay well, right?
Yeah, this one, I mean, look, commissions aren't a crime, right? So there's no reason to love them. No reason not to love them. There was a company that I worked at early in my sales career where we had guidelines on pricing, and there were some things that we were supposed to follow, but the implementation fee that we could set was 100% ours to keep.
Yeah.
So immediately I felt a little bit strange about that, and lo and behold, we had sellers on the team that were completely price gouging the implementation fee, outrageously high, and they were baking it and rolling it into the regular fees. And the regional sales manager was looking the other way. I felt very odd. Now, would you be shocked if I told you, Will, that at the end of the year, our territory was #1 in customer turnover and #1 in employee turnover?
That does not surprise me one bit. Choosing your implementation fees, like $1 million?
I mean, what was the company thinking? People talk. The world is much smaller than we think it is, especially amongst our buyers. Customers found out what was going on and were leaving. I had that dilemma because it was still early in my sales career, and I was, being influenced by all of this, and I had to kind of pick a lane. Was I going to do the price gouging, or was I going to stick to doing it the right way, keeping the implementation fee what it should be? I stuck to my moral compass, and I've never slept better.
When you sell out, those things weigh on you. Like I mentioned earlier, the guilty conscience. It affects everything you do in life, the relationships you have, but also the conversations you have with customers. You're better off, knowing your values, knowing who you are, and knowing what you believe in, sticking to those things. I've found greed can manifest itself in a lot of other ways as well. Sometimes it's being too focused on yourself, what's in it for you, not being focused on other people, or in some cases even sometimes comparing yourself to other people and wishing you had what they had. Envy, basically. I worked at a company once, Canadian company, and I had by far the smallest territory, objectively, to be fair. I had like PEI, you know? I had the one person in the room who would be a customer. And it'd been really heavily worked as well. But I became obsessed with the fact that my performance could only be because I had the smallest territory. I was looking at these other sellers who were doing really well, and I was thinking, if I had what they had, if I had California, if I had Ontario, if I had BC, I'd be fine, I'd be killing it, I'd have all these inbound leads coming to me.
Rough.
But I focused so heavily on that I completely neglected everything that I was bringing to the role and failed to make the most of the situation I put myself in. I took the job. I asked the questions about the territory before I joined. That is a bad way to be. You need to be focused on what you can do, selling the right way, some of the ways that we mentioned here. We did a fair amount of work with the team who put this together.
That's right.
I have a moment to acknowledge that
right.
as well. Paul Blair and his team. But while talking to those folks, we had some exposure to the Telus sales competency model.
That's right.
So we took a little look at those words that are on there.
But we took those words and we decided to put it back in that AI image generator to see what it would produce with those words in there. Telus is building a culture of sales excellence and trying to elevate the profession.
So we went full circle, put it in an AI image generator to try to get an image of the excellence and potential at Telus. This is what it gave us.
Will,
Yeah.
what the heck is that?
AI is still a new technology, Bilal. Has some work to come.
This looks like the TBS product team trying to do deselecting, simplifying the product offering. What's going on, man?
It looks like a mess. No wonder they're taking so long. Where are the features at?
What's going on?
Where are the new product lines at? No wonder. Yeah, come on. Like, we could put all the prompts into an AI image generator in the world, and it wouldn't quite give us a visual of the amount of potential in this room, the amount of competency in this room, as this one. Snapped that yesterday. We've got it right here. We already have it. We don't need AI. Like we said at the start of the presentation, I don't think people know how challenging it can be to work in sales management as a seller. So we went ahead actually and decided to make sure that it wasn't just a geography thing that Halifax folks don't really think that much of salespeople. We decided to hit the streets of Vancouver yesterday morning. Yeah. It's a little bit warmer here than in Halifax, I'll tell you. I might move there now.
A little bit.
So we have a second clip to show you of us talking to some people on the street again.
Would you work in sales?
Nope.
Did you ever work in sales?
I have worked in sales.
You have worked in sales?
Yeah.
Would you do it again or no?
No, not
not at all?
Not a chance.
Would you ever cold call people?
What's that?
Like cold calling. Oh wait, I've got to put my American accent on. Cold calling.
Cold calling?
Yeah, like cold calling.
Oh gosh, I would never be able to do that. No.
Yeah, like a sales job. Would you ever take a sales job? No? No.
Would either of you ever work in sales? Would you ever work in sales?
No.
No?
No.
And no. Would you work in sales?
No.
No?
No. Sales, no.
No.
Would you ever work in sales?
Probably not.
But you wouldn't work in sales?
No.
What do you want to do when you grow up then?
Realtor.
Realtor. That's sales. That counts. Do you ever work in sales?
No.
Everything is sales.
Everything is sales though, right? That's the odd part about it, is that every company has sellers, nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to do it.
No. No, I'm not trying to make all of you rethink your careers right now, I promise. But to me, that's motivating as crap. That's motivating as heck, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We do, everyone who sells in this room, pipe down product and marketing, I know there's some of you out there, does what other people won't and can't. Isn't that inspiring?
Yeah.
You're doing something that I would say probably over 95% of the population will never even attempt. That was everyone we spoke to. Not one person said yes.
Not one person. That's what it's about. I mean, we know that this job is hard, but that's what makes it so gratifying. It's not easy, and it's not natural. It's not easy to use silence to push a conversation further. It's not easy to trade your cleverness for curiosity. It's not easy to focus on somebody else's needs than your own, but that's what elite sellers do. And that's why we get paid what we get paid, and we get to practice this noble profession.
Like the title of our presentation is, what's it going to take to work in sales in 2023? Naveen already spoiled it. You have to want to work in sales.
Do it for the right reasons.
Do it the right way.
Listening to our customers and acting with integrity, trust, and care.
And we're going to have to continue to want it. Every week, every day, every hour, long after this talk's finished, long after this day's finished, long after most of you have flown home if you don't live in Vancouver. We have to continue to want it for the entire of 2023, and that's what it's going to take to work in sales in 2023. You're going to have to want it every single day. This is your moment. Big year ahead. Showtime. What's up folks, Will Aitken here. Hope you enjoyed that presentation that Belal and I gave at Telus' SKO back in 2023. Thought I'd share it here because despite the fact that it was in 2023 and Telus specific, there were some great takeaways in there I think for any seller out there. Believe it or not, this YouTube channel doesn't quite pay my bills yet. Most of my work, my business's revenue comes from doing talks just like the one you just watched. So if you are looking for someone to present at an event, an SKO, or you just want to workshop with your sales team or some one-on-one coaching, I offer all of those over on willaitken.com. Go check those out if you fancy it. If you're not in the market for that kind of thing though, that's all good. You can subscribe to the channel, that helps massively. And what I'll do is I'll put out some videos right here that feature my co-presenter, Belal Batrawy. He's wicked smart and I love his style of presenting and his approach to sales. So feel free to give one of those a watch. They're very good. Peace, love, sales.